She laughed. Not the cute kind she does when I forget the car keys. Not the snort laugh she tries to hide when watching dumb sitcoms. This was hollow, nervous, dangerous. She reached into her purse at the edge of the kitchen island, pulled out my wedding ring, stared at it like it was a joke, then looked up at me, still smiling, and said, "Is this supposed to mean something?" That was 2 nights ago. The room felt suddenly smaller, like the air got pulled out through a crack in the wall. I had spent 6 hours rehearsing what I'd say when she found it. I imagined her face falling, her eyes watering, her voice trembling. Instead, I got a chuckle, like I was an amateur magician showing her a coin trick she'd seen 100 times. She didn't ask how it got there. She didn't ask about the note I had folded beneath it, either, the one that read, "Found this in your life. Care to explain?" She just zipped the purse back up, walked past me, kissed my cheek, and said, "I'm late. Don't wait up." Then she left. I stood there, fingers twitching, heart knocking unevenly, replaying every second of the past month in my head like a corrupted tape. All the late nights, all the dead batteries, all the co-workers I never met, all the silences that used to be soft, now sharp. I checked the closet after she left. The black duffel bag was gone again. It only appears for certain trips, ones she doesn't tell me about until hours before. Once, she said she went to Palm Springs with her cousin. Her cousin lives in Vermont. And now the laugh. The worst part? She brought the ring back the next morning. Left it on my pillow. Still warm. The ring on my pillow wasn't just a message. It was a performance. Carefully placed. Still warm. As if it had only just been removed minutes before I woke up. It lay there like a question I wasn't supposed to ask. She was already gone. No note. No good morning. No coffee pot on, which she always did even if we weren't speaking. Just the ring, like a severed finger. I didn't touch it for almost half an hour. I just sat there, staring at it like it might blink or speak. Eventually, I wrapped it in tissue and slipped it into the drawer beside the bed. I didn't want to see it anymore, but I couldn't throw it away either. That felt like losing something twice. It was only later, when I went looking for her charger, that I found something she'd missed. Her old phone. She'd switched to a newer model a few months ago. I assumed the old one was wiped or dead, but it was there, shoved behind a stack of scarves in her dresser drawer. The screen was cracked, the case peeling at the edges. I pressed the power button, half expecting nothing, but it lit up. No passcode. Just a swipe, and I was in. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for. I don't think I was thinking clearly at all. Maybe a text thread. Maybe deleted photos she forgot to erase from the cloud. But what I found was worse. Stranger. A folder in her voice memos app titled Nights. The first recording was 3 minutes and 26 seconds long. I hit play. It started with silence. Then footsteps. Heels clicking. A door creaking open. And then her voice, soft, distant, like she was speaking while walking. I told him I was with Rachel tonight. He believed me. I think he always believes me. I could say I'm on the moon, and he'd probably ask if I packed snacks. I froze. She was talking about me. Her voice was steady, calm. There was a pause. Then she laughed again. That same strange, hollow laugh from the kitchen. Anyway, he left something in my purse. A ring. Can you believe that? His actual wedding ring. And a note. Like I'm supposed to burst into tears or confess everything. God, he's so dramatic. More footsteps. Another door. Then a second voice, male, low, close to the mic. He knows. That was it. End of recording. I just sat there, gripping the phone like it might melt in my hands. I must have played it back a dozen times, analyzing every second. Her tone, his voice, the way she said everything. How much was everything? How long had it been going on? Who was he? And more importantly, why did the voice sound familiar? I think I've heard it before. I just can't place it. Not yet. But I will. Because I've already made the next move. And when I tell you what I did that night, you'll understand why there's no going back now. I didn't sleep that night. Not even close. I laid in bed with her old phone clutched to my chest like it might disappear if I let it go. The voice recording kept echoing in my head, especially that man's voice. He knows. There was something about the way he said it. Not surprised. Not panicked. Just resigned. Like he knew this was part of the script. Like he wanted me to know. I kept replaying his voice in my mind, trying to match it to anyone she might know. Co-workers, friends, gym trainers, delivery guys. It was like trying to identify a shadow in a fog. I needed to see his face. I needed proof. Because as much as I hated what I heard, a small, miserable part of me still wanted to believe it was some cruel misunderstanding. A joke I wasn't in on. A dream, maybe. But I knew better. I always did. I just never admitted it. The next day, I told Malin I had a migraine and took the day off work. She was already dressed and ready to leave by the time I got out of bed. Perfectly done hair, soft makeup, that same red lipstick she only ever wore to networking events. When I asked where she was going, she said she had a client lunch across town. Then she kissed my forehead and left her coffee half finished on the table. 10 minutes later, I followed her. I know how that sounds. Obsessive, desperate. But the moment that voice said, "He knows," something broke inside me. I couldn't pretend anymore. I tailed her car from 3 cars back, keeping my headlights off when I could. It felt like something out of a bad thriller movie, the kind you roll your eyes at because no one would ever be that pathetic in real life. Turns out, I would. She didn't drive to a restaurant or an office. She pulled into the underground parking garage of a mid-range hotel, one of those beige business-type buildings with a conference room no one ever uses. I parked across the street and waited. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then he appeared. I didn't recognize him at first. Tall, slim build, buzzed hair. He was wearing a dark coat and carrying a laptop bag, like a tech consultant or something. Nothing remarkable. Except as he passed under the garage light and turned his wrist, I saw it. My watch. No, not a similar one. My watch. Custom engraved on the inside with my initials, a birthday gift from my father 3 years ago. I'd lost it during a weekend trip to Seattle. I tore our apartment apart looking for it. She told me I probably left it at the hotel. I believed her. And now it was on his wrist. I snapped a photo with my phone, hands shaking. I didn't care if they saw me anymore. I just needed something real. Something I couldn't second guess. As I watched them walk inside together, close, but not touching, I realized I wasn't angry. I was terrified. Not because of what they were doing, but because of how calm she looked doing it. No guilt. No hesitation. Like she'd done this before. Like she had rehearsed it. And I'm starting to think I wasn't just being cheated on. I'm starting to think I've been a character in someone else's game for a long time. I just don't know what the game is. Not yet. I didn't go home right away. After I saw them walk into the hotel, I sat in my car for what must have been 2 hours. Engine off. Windows cracked. Just sitting there. Not thinking. Not moving. I stared at the hotel entrance like it owed me answers. Part of me expected to see her run out, spot me across the street, scream or cry, or explain everything. But nothing happened. The door stayed closed. They stayed gone. The worst part was how normal everything felt around me. People walking by. Cars honking. A dad pushing a stroller. While I sat there unraveling, it felt like I was the only one aware the world was falling apart. When I finally did leave, it wasn't a go home. I didn't know where I was going until I realized I'd pulled into the parking lot of a strip mall 3 blocks from our apartment. I just couldn't go back there. Not yet. Not after seeing him. Not with the image of my watch on his wrist burned into my brain like a brand. I sat in the lot staring at a closed tanning salon, chewing my nails until they bled. That's when my phone buzzed. Her name lit up the screen. Malin. I hesitated. My thumb hovered over answer like it might explode. I finally swiped and put the phone to my ear, not saying a word. Just listening. But it wasn't her voice. It was his. The man from the hotel. The man with my watch. "Hi," he said, calm as still water. I figured it was time we spoke. I said nothing. "I know you followed her today," he continued, his voice low but clear. "I saw you parked across the street. Brave of you, really. You've lasted longer than the others." "The others?" I couldn't breathe. "You've probably got a lot of questions," he said, as if we were catching up over coffee. "That's good. Keep asking them. It means you're still useful." I finally found my voice. "Who the hell are you?" A pause. Then, "Let's not ruin the ending too early." The call ended. I stared at my screen, heart pounding like a war drum. I tried calling back, but it rang once and went straight to voicemail. I checked the call log, certain I'd hallucinated it. But no, it was her number. Her number called me. But she didn't know, or didn't care, or wasn't able to know. I drove home in silence, completely numb. When I walked into the apartment, she was already in bed, pretending to be asleep. Or maybe not pretending. I stood in the doorway for a long time, just watching her breathe. I looked for any hint of guilt, of unease, but she looked peaceful. Serene, even. I didn't wake her. I didn't say a word. I just went into the bathroom, turned on the shower, and cried harder than I have in years. I should have left. But something told me it wasn't just infidelity. It wasn't just a lie. There was something else happening. Something orchestrated. And I was the only one not reading from the script. The next morning felt like waking up inside someone else's dream. The apartment was too quiet, too neat, too staged. Malin was already gone. No trace of her except a faint smell of her perfume and an empty mug in the sink. For a few seconds, I almost convinced myself I had imagined everything. The hotel, the call, the voice that wasn't hers. But then I opened my nightstand drawer and saw the ring wrapped in tissue. The proof. Cold and heavy. Real. I spent most of the morning pacing. I thought about calling the police, but what would I even tell them? My wife might be cheating on me with a man who called from her number and said I'm useful. They'd probably send someone with padded gloves instead of a badge. So I did the only thing I could think of. I drove back to the hotel. The same gray building. Same board man at the front desk. I told him I dropped something in the parking garage last night and wanted to check. He didn't even look up from his screen when he waved me through. The place was nearly empty. I walked around for 20 minutes, pretending to search under cars, scanning every corner, every camera. I didn't know what I expected to find. Maybe the man. Maybe another clue. What I found instead was someone else watching me. He was standing by the dumpster at the far end of the lot, smoking. Late 40s, tired eyes, wearing a faded denim jacket and a ball cap. When he noticed me looking, he flicked his cigarette away and nodded, like we already knew each other. "You're her husband, right?" he said. My stomach dropped. "What?" "Malin," he said casually. "The redhead." Sharp smile. "She's still using that name, huh?" I didn't answer. Couldn't. He sighed and rubbed the back of his neck. "Listen, I don't want trouble. I just thought you should know you're not the first one." I stepped closer. "What do you mean?" He looked around nervously, as if expecting someone to step out of the shadows. "She does this. Every few years. Different city, different guy, same story. Always someone who wears his heart on his sleeve. Then she disappears. Leaves just enough behind to drive you crazy." I stared at him, waiting for the punchline. "You're saying she's done this before? You're saying, what, this is some kind of con?" He gave a small, humorless laugh. "Not exactly. It's more like a project. She's not alone, either. There's another guy, slick, quiet, real calculating. Watches from a distance. Keeps her in line, I think. He's the one with your watch, isn't he?" I froze. "How do you know about that?" He stepped back. "Because it used to be mine." My pulse roared in my ears. I wanted to grab him, demand answers. But before I could move, he tossed his cigarette butt into the dumpster and started walking away. "If you're smart," he called over his shoulder, "you'll leave before she finishes the story." "What story?" I shouted after him. But he didn't turn around. I stood there for a long time, staring at the place where he'd been. The parking lot was silent again, just the hum of a flickering streetlight above. I should have gone home. I should have called someone. Instead, I went back to my car, opened her old phone again, and pressed play on another recording from the night's folder. This one wasn't a conversation. It was her voice reading something slowly, deliberately, like a script. The words made my skin crawl. Act 4. He begins to doubt himself. He finds the stranger. He starts asking the wrong questions. He doesn't realize he's already being watched. My hands were shaking. The file ended with a click. And then the phone screen flickered, and a new notification appeared. New recording saved. 10:41 a.m. The exact time I was standing by the dumpster. At first, I told myself the recording was just a glitch. Some leftover draft. Maybe it had been recorded days earlier and only just now auto-saved or updated. But that lie didn't last more than a few seconds. The timestamp was too precise. 10:41 a.m. The exact moment I stood in the parking lot with the man in the denim jacket. The exact moment I heard him say, "You're not the first one." The recording had no ambient noise, no background, no second voice, just Malin, reading. I opened it, trembling. Act 5. He speaks with the warning. He begins to panic. He checks the phone again. He begins to understand that the script is changing. I dropped the phone. It clattered across the passenger seat like a live insect. My mouth was dry. My skin was ice. This wasn't just paranoia anymore. Someone, or something, was tracking my thoughts. Not just watching, but narrating, predicting, or worse, directing. When I picked the phone back up, My thumb hovered over the delete button. I could erase the whole folder. Wipe it. Pretend none of this was happening. But something in me needed to know what came next. I opened the folder again. Another new file had appeared, this time with no title. Just a series of dashes. I didn't listen. Not yet. I drove home first. The apartment was dark when I got there. Curtains drawn. TV off. Not a sound except for the gentle hum of the refrigerator. I checked the bedroom. Empty. Checked the bathroom. Empty. Checked her closet. The red dress was gone again. So was the black duffel bag. No note. No call. Just absence. Her kind of silence had a shape to it now, hollow and echoing, like walking through a stage set after the actors have left. I sat at the kitchen table, opened the unnamed voice memo, and braced myself. There was no voice this time. Just breathing. Not Malin's. Not mine. Someone else's. Slow, raspy, close to the microphone. Then a metallic sound, like keys being turned. Then footsteps. Carpeted. Familiar. It took me a few seconds to realize why. I was hearing someone move through my apartment. I stood up so fast the chair fell over behind me. I ran to the front door. Still locked. I checked the windows. Nothing open. I checked every room, every closet, even under the bed. Nothing. No one. I came back to the phone. The recording was still playing. Then it stopped. 10 seconds later, another new memo appeared. He doesn't find anyone. He begins to feel watched in his own space. He begins to wonder how long they've been recording. He wonders what he's done alone. That wasn't actually alone. I nearly threw the phone across the room. But I didn't. I couldn't. I needed to understand. I spent the next hour searching every inch of the apartment. I unscrewed wall plates, took down smoke detectors, turned over every cushion and cabinet. And then, finally, tucked behind the back panel of the living room bookshelf, I found it. A recording device. Small, black, no logo. Wired into the wall. Not Wi-Fi. Hardwired. Clean installation. It had been there for months. I felt sick. My entire body buzzed with a crawling kind of nausea, like I could feel 1,000 eyes blinking under my skin. I didn't touch the device. I left it where it was. I wanted to rip it out, burn it, smash it, but I needed it intact. I needed someone to believe me, because by this point, I barely believed myself. I started thinking about every private moment I thought I'd had in that apartment. Every breakdown. Every drunken night. Every whispered thought I'd muttered to myself when I thought the world had left me alone. Who was listening? And what the hell were they waiting for? I tried to call Malin. Straight to voicemail. Then I called her office. A woman answered, confused, said Malin hadn't worked there in over a year. That her contract had ended abruptly and no one had heard from her since. She said they thought Malin had moved out of state. I hung up before she could ask any questions. I sat back on the couch, phone in hand, trying to steady my breathing. Then the phone buzzed again. Unknown number. One new text message. No words. Just a photo. Of me. Taken through the peephole in my front door. Time-stamped 3 minutes ago. I didn't open the door. I just stared through the peephole for 20 minutes, barely blinking. My legs went numb. My hand cramped from holding the phone too tight. But I didn't move. Because someone had been there, standing exactly where I stood now, just minutes earlier. Watching me. Photographing me. And the way the image was framed, I knew it wasn't taken from the outside looking in. It was taken from inside the apartment, through the peephole, looking out. The hallway was empty now. Dead silent. The kind of silence that makes your own breathing sound intrusive. I finally backed away, locked the deadbolt, then locked it again for good measure, even though I knew it didn't matter. Whoever had been inside knew how to get in. And worse, they knew how to leave without a trace. I called the police. I actually did it this time. I told them someone had broken into my home. I didn't mention Malin. I didn't mention the recordings. I just said I found a hidden device and had received threatening messages. They showed up an hour later. 2 officers. One younger, polite but tired. The other older, skeptical before I even spoke. They walked through the apartment like they were humoring me. The younger one examined the recorder behind the bookshelf. He raised his eyebrows, nodded slowly. Looks professionally installed. That's not some Amazon spy gadget, he muttered. The older one asked if I had roommates, a partner, a landlord. When I said I lived with my wife, he asked where she was. I told him I didn't know. That was a mistake. He immediately started taking notes differently, like the entire tone of the situation had shifted. They asked to see photos of us together. I pulled up our wedding album. Except it wasn't there. Not on my phone. Not on the cloud. Not in any backup folder. It was just gone. I searched by date. Nothing. By name. Nothing. I checked social media, our tagged photos, our anniversary posts, the vacation in Oregon, the New Year's dinner from last year. All of it was gone. Every image of her. Every caption. Every digital trace. It was like Malin had never existed. The younger officer saw the panic in my face. "Sir, is it possible you've been under some kind of stress lately? Lack of sleep, maybe?" He said it gently, like I was a balloon he didn't want to pop. I told them to check the call logs. Look at the messages. Look at the photo. But when I opened the text app, it was gone too. No message. No unknown number. No timestamp. No photo of me at the door. Just a clean, empty screen. The older officer pulled me aside. Asked if I wanted to be referred to someone. Just to talk. That tone, soft, condescending, paper-thin patience, it broke something in me. I asked them to leave. They did. And I sat there alone again, knees pulled to my chest on the kitchen floor, wondering if I was losing my mind or just finally seeing it clearly for the first time. The phone buzzed again at 2:03 a.m. It was a voicemail. No number. No missed call. Just a message waiting. I played it. It was Malin's voice. "You made it further than the others. That's good. That means your foundation was stronger. You'll remember this later. Don't fight it. Just let it happen. Let the memory come back to you. You've been here before. We've done this before. We always start in the middle." I nearly dropped the phone. What did that mean? The middle? Had I been through this already? I opened the old phone. The nights folder was gone. Completely deleted. Replaced by a single file titled script_6_final_final_v2. Wave. I pressed play. The first line was me. My voice. Reading words I didn't remember saying. She laughed. Not the cute kind. It was the exact first sentence from when all of this started. Word for word. My story wasn't mine. I was following lines someone else had written. And I had no idea how it ended. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. My mind kept looping the same questions like a skipping record. Why my voice? Why the script? Why had everything been staged, erased, rewritten? I sat in the living room with both phones in front of me, staring at the final recording. Script_6_final_final_v2. Wave. My voice was in it. My words. But I had never spoken them. At least, I didn't remember doing so. It was almost morning when I made the decision. I packed a bag, just a small one, a few clothes, the old phone, my ID, and the ring. I didn't leave a note. There was no one left to read it. I didn't know where I was going exactly, but I had a feeling I'd recognize it when I saw it. And I did. A little cabin tucked away in the woods 2 hours north, one I hadn't thought about in years. My family used to rent it when I was a kid. No electricity. No cell service. Just trees and a lake and silence. I don't even remember driving there. Not really. It felt like my body was being moved by something older than thought. When I arrived, the key was already under the rock where it always was. That part made me laugh. Some things never change. I stayed inside for hours, just breathing, thinking, or maybe unthinking. It wasn't until nightfall that I finally reached into my bag and pulled out the ring. I held it in my palm. It still had the engraving inside, still choosing you. M. But in that moment, I realized. M wasn't Malin. It never had been. I sat down on the floor, cross-legged like a kid, closed my eyes, and tried to remember. Not guess. Not assume. Remember. And slowly, it came back. The sessions. The experiments. The decision. My decision. I had agreed to something. Not a punishment, not a con, not surveillance, but a test. A cognitive reset. A controlled psychological simulation designed to break through memory walls caused by long-term trauma. The heartbreak, the betrayal, the sense of being watched, it wasn't real. Not like I thought. It was a story. One my own mind had helped create. Because years ago, I had suffered a breakdown after losing someone, my real wife. Her name wasn't Malin. It was Mara. And I couldn't cope with the grief. I shut down. Disconnected. Lost the will to keep going. Until I was offered a way to start over, not in the real world, but inside my own. The voices. The recordings. The man with my watch. The script. It was all designed to agitate the parts of me I'd buried. To bring emotion back online. To shock me into remembering pain so that I could finally heal from it. I cried harder that night than I ever had. Not from fear, but from the beauty of it. I understood what Malin meant now, the voice on the voicemail. You've been here before. We always start in the middle. That was how healing works. You don't start clean. You pick up from the wreckage. You sort through the pieces. You rebuild. The next morning, I woke to birdsong and sunlight. And peace. No buzzing phones. No hidden cameras. No shadows in doorways. Just me, barefoot on the wood porch, holding a mug of coffee, feeling the weight of my body in my bones, alive and real. I took the ring and walked to the edge of the lake. I whispered thank you to Mara, and I let the ring sink to the bottom, where no one else could rewrite its meaning again. Not even me.